Am I that big that you got to get that far back? No, no. Okay, so the topic today is risk. Now we know that driving is risky. There's always risk whenever you drive. We try to minimize that risk as much as possible by having some good habits, right? Makes sense. Anybody disagree that driving is risky? No. Every time you get in the car, there's risk associated with it. There's two kinds of risk. There's a real risk and a perceived risk. Now what's the difference? Now a perceived risk, a huge risk, would be the airplane in the sky falling out of the sky and hitting you, right? Now is that a very realistic risk?
Yes.
No, it isn't. That's not as realistic as the bicyclist on the road next to you. Okay, but of those two things, which of those risks have the greatest risk of danger, injury, or death? That's the airplane falling out of the sky. That's the bigger perceived risk, but it's not the real risk. The real risk to you as a driver is the bicyclist on the side of the road. Now, risk also changes. It can be altered, it can be changed, we can manage it, it shifts, and it's shared by everybody on the road. So a good example of perceived versus real risk. If you're looking at the balls in my hands, now we're going to assume that I can throw equally well with my left hand or my right hand. Which hand has the greater risk right now? This hand or this hand?
Oh, the two balls.
The two balls, correct. You don't want to get two balls thrown at you, you'd rather have only one ball thrown at you, okay? Now, if I move one ball from my left hand to my right hand, the risk has changed from here to here. So now the greater risk, the greater perceived risk in your mind is in my right hand. I move it back to my left hand. You're focusing on the two balls, right? Because that's where you think is the greater risk. However, where was the real risk? Okay? The real risk was actually in my right hand. Thank you. But you were looking more at this because there were two. So you're still looking at the two, but you know now that I can throw with my right hand. So now I'm going to shift over here. Now where are you looking? Are you thinking, oh my God, he's going to throw with his right hand? He's already done that, so he's going to throw two balls at us now, right? But no. Okay. So the risk that you may think is the greater risk is actually the lesser risk. Now it's changing. It changed from my left hand to my right hand. It's always happening when you're driving on the road. When I threw the first ball, what did you start to do?
Flinch.
To flinch.
Yeah.
Okay, were you running through your mind what you were going to do if I threw the ball at you?
No, but it felt like it was coming at me, kind of. So I was afraid. I was going for it.
Okay, were you concerned I was going to throw the ball at you?
The second time I
The
was like,
second
alright,
time.
you already got hurt.
Oh,
Okay, good. So now you're starting to manage it. You're starting to plan what you're going to do. All right, so that's another characteristic of risk. You can manage it. You can reduce it. It's also shared. You share risk on the road with everybody else you're on the road with. Now, if you didn't want to catch the ball, what could you do?
Block it.
Block it? Could you duck and get out of the way? Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely sharing the risk of the ball with the person behind you. That's what we do on the road too. You share the risk with everyone else on the road. There's a real versus a perceived risk, and sometimes the real risk looks less, but is actually the greater risk. You can change the risk, alter it, or manage it, and it's shared by everyone else on the road. And another thing, it's always, always there. Every time you get in the car, you're at risk. And how you manage that can keep you as a safer driver. Make sense? Cool.